What is going on, guys? My name is Alex, and this is the Equity Odyssey Podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of getting to interview Shineece Sellers, and Shanice is the legacy planning agent. She is a commercial real estate investor and a nonprofit leader, and maybe most importantly, a mom. So, super excited to have you, and super excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me and having me to be on your podcast. I'm excited to talk with you.
Awesome, awesome. Well, on the Equity Odyssey podcast, the first thing we like to do typically is kind of dive into the backstory and the highs, the lows, what happens, the turning points, that sort of thing. So I guess let's start there. Give us a backstory of how you got here today.
Ooh, ugh. Well, we only got an hour. No.
Yeah.
So I guess in short, my background, I started, I got my degree in accounting and business management, graduated from App State 2014, immediately went into the accounting field, decided to become a financial advisor. So then went and got my Series 7, Series 63 licenses so I could advise clients on their retirement planning, things of that nature. Pretty much in total worked in financial services for about 7 years. While doing all of that, doing the financial services, in 2017, I decided to leave my job in the accounting field and was exploring other opportunities and came across a real estate investing educational program of some sort. It was like this, teaching people how to wholesale, fix and flip, things like that. And that was 2017. So I think 2018 is when I bought my first investment property. And that is kind of what kicked off my learning in real estate. And pretty much from there, a period of juggling because I was being a financial advisor, but doing investing on, myself for me. And ended up not dropping, but pausing, I would say, real estate investing and sold my investment property so that I could focus on the financial advisory. During that period, I apologize for all the background noise.
It's good. I can't hear it.
Okay, good. During all of that, life happened. So my mom, actually, I want to start with my grandfather. My grandfather actually passed away December 2018. And the reason why I talk about my grandfather, I actually manage some rental properties that have been family owned for several generations because he owned these properties and now I manage these properties as our rentals. And he was such a cornerstone, I would say, in my life because he is the reason why I got into financial services. My grandfather was a farmer, came from a farming family. They owned the land that they worked on. And for him, everything was about don't owe anybody, own everything, save money. So there was no investment knowledge whatsoever. It was all save money, work hard, don't owe nobody. Those were like the three key points that we needed to know. And then have insurance because he was an insurance guy as well, so he made sure he would have insurance. But there was never any investment talks, how to make your money work for you, which is what led me into financial services because it was like, I don't want to work hard for the rest of my life on this farm. And, that was not the path that I wanted to. We have got to find a way for our money to work for us. And that's really what kind of piqued my knowledge and my interest. So he passed away December 2018. And during that, literally the following month, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. And the reason why I talk about these two people, and it's not just them, it's the whole family dynamic, but I feel that I'm very connected to my ancestors. And so this is why I talk about being a legacy agent, because if it had not been for the steps that they took and what they did, I don't think I would be where I am or even interested in what I am interested in. So my mom, she passed away August 2019. She started this nonprofit organization called the African American Cultural Arts and History Center. We're located in Burleson, North Carolina, and we focus on collecting and preserving local African American history. So, and this at the time, and even for years, it seems like I'm all over the place with everything. And then and I'm going to connect all the dots in this conversation because it took me a long time to connect the dots because it was like, okay, history over here, investing over here. You think these two don't seem to relate or connect in any sort of way. So after my mom passed away, she started that nonprofit. Actually, it started before 2017, but we got our nonprofit status in 2017. And so after her passing, I took over as a director in 2020, and then we opened up our physical location. We were able to hire full-time staff. So I'm still the director of that organization now. I'm a little bit more hands-off than I used to be, but it's still very close to my heart because it's all about legacy. And that nonprofit got me connected with other nonprofits. And and so I'm also now the chairperson of the Bros Community Land Trust, which is centered around affordable home ownership. So when I talk about legacy and legacy planning and home ownership, which is about creating generational wealth. And so going back to my ancestry and where I come from, if it had not been for the things that my grandfather and his ancestors did to acquire the land, to own the land, I'm not exactly sure I would have had the opportunities and the positions that I've been able to have. I was able to sell my house that I had bought. I bought my first home in 2017. I sold it in the midst of COVID because it was just a crazy time. And the value of my home had literally doubled. And so sold it and moved back to the property because we had properties that we owned. So it wasn't a rush to look for a new place. It was like, we have houses, we have space, I can go back there. So that was, to me, I consider that a blessing, but that's how generationally you can create wealth through home ownership. Had they not owned that land and that property, I would not have been able to benefit from that period in time. I would have been like, I'm going to have to stay here in this house. I don't have any place else to go. And honestly, I'm not even sure I would have been able to buy that house had not, I've been conditioned to think in the way of owning, to own whatever it is you're going to acquire, to not owe anybody and own it. Well, I still owe the mortgage, but eventually, 15 years down the line, it would have been paid off. So I talk about it's a long story. So I was like, we only got an hour, but it's a long story of kind of how I ended up here. And so becoming an agent was an opportunity because as an investor, you don't really need to become an agent to do what you do, right? You can invest and be a excellent real estate investor. And I know very high net worth real estate investors who are not agents. But for me, I decided to become a real estate agent, because about 2 years, about say almost 2 years ago, I started learning about multifamily and multifamily syndication, doing these big apartment deals, acquiring these apartment complexes. And once again, I'm all about how can we make our money work for us. So, and it's a funny story how all this came about. So we were driving one day, me and my partner, Kenneth, we were driving, and he's looking at this apartment complex, and he's just like, man, I would love to own that. And I was like, I don't know how to go about doing that. I don't know how to acquire an apartment complex. And I said, let me look into it. So literally just got online trying to figure out, how can we own an apartment complex? Like, how can we do this? Is this a possible thing? Because all my knowledge at that point was limited to residential. I can find a deal, I can negotiate a deal. But it was, it was not this big thinking of let's buy an apartment complex. But he put the idea out there, and the problem with me is once you give me that idea, I will run with it and I will find things out, and I will, I'm a go-getter in that sense. And so went to this 3-day workshop class and learned about apartment syndication. And once again, me going on deals to hunt down. And in the process of doing that, I was like, well, I'm coming across these large deals, but I'm not able to close on these large deals. But I know the people that can close on these large deals. And then I said, how about I just become an agent and find these deals for them? And so I was like, that way I can still get paid in the process, because I'm already finding the deals and I'm good at the underwriting piece. but I wouldn't consider myself an expert at capital raising. And that's one of the biggest things you need when you're doing these private equity deals. And so that's kind of what led me to where I am now. So um, March of this year is when I decided to go and sit for the exam and become a real estate agent. And now I deal in the commercial space, mainly focusing on apartments, not so much as like office space or things of that nature, but mainly focusing on acquisitions of apartment complexes.
Awesome. Super cool. So at this time, is your specialty as a commercial agent, multifamily, deal sourcing, or what would you say your specialty is there?
Yeah, mostly deal sourcing, and like I said, underwriting. I'm pretty good at the underwriting piece. I also there's some skill sets that I have that I didn't really mention, but I also contract with insurance companies. So I've been an insurance inspector essentially. I would go out to properties, and a lot of these properties were commercial and residential, and identify essentially ages of roofs, electrical, plumbing, all that kind of things that insurance companies are looking for when they're doing their underwriting. So I'm pretty good, I would say, with the underwriting piece.
Awesome. I want to circle back on a lot of that stuff, but one question at the front of my mind, because I know a lot of people are trying to learn how to underwrite apartment buildings, right? Because that's what they say. If you're trying to get into apartment buildings, that's one of the first skills you need to master, right? Is learn how to underwrite. So what would you say, what's a good process for learning how to underwrite, and maybe a couple tips and tricks?
For me, having somebody else check your work is a good start, because I was already good with numbers. I already knew when I was learning how to underwrite that thinking wise, it wasn't going to be a big problem. I know some people kind of struggle with the logic behind it. Why are we doing it this way? Or what does this even mean? I didn't really struggle with that. My biggest struggle was second guessing my own work. So having somebody to check behind you, somebody with experience, I would suggest, who has closed several deals. Because even with me, even though I consider myself to be a very good underwriter, there's somebody else, like I have a good business partner who has closed several deals, and he is very quick to point out something I overlook. If I overlook something, he's just like, well, you didn't take into consideration that this is this and that, and that. Like, and he gives me the whole explanation. So if you can find somebody who has closed several deals, because the problem or the challenge, I won't say the problem, but the challenge sometimes is one second. His dog. The challenge sometimes is that even when you are underwriting, there are certain situations that you may not think of just because you lack experience in it. Like you haven't crossed it yet. It hasn't crossed your path to even think like that. Like you really won't know it unless you have experienced it firsthand. So having somebody who can say, well, we had something similar to this, and this is what happened, or this is what caused our numbers to not work, or somebody with that kind of experience. So having somebody to review your work and say, hey, think about this, because you always have to have somebody that is thinking differently and outside of the box. I think is the key to it all, really.
Right. Sorry about that. I don't know. Could you hear that on your end?
I could not. The only thing I can hear is this dog going through all my life.
No worries. No worries. All right. Very good. And you mentioned a lot about legacy. What is it that's so important to you about legacy?
So for me, coming from such a family that has, to me, a very interesting history. And I'm so proud of my family on both sides, my mom and my dad's side, but in particular with my dad's side, because of all that they accomplished with being able to own over 100 acres of land. And this would have been in the late 1800s, and working that land. I'm so proud of that history, and it's literally everything in my being. But for me, legacy is letting others know, like it's your history, your family history, letting others know that you were here, that you did something. For my mom, that was her center. So that was her baby. And for me, it was a no-brainer. People always ask me, why did you decide to continue to center? I was like, well, I didn't really have a choice. Like, I didn't really have a choice in the matter because that was her legacy. And it was so important for me to continue that hard work because she worked so hard to make that happen. So it would be a waste for it to just, after her passing, for it to not go anywhere. And I hope that at least one of my kids will oversee it at some point in their future. They don't have to make it their whole life like I have, but I definitely would at least like them to be involved in some form or fashion because legacy is that piece of when you like where I am in North Carolina, there's family names, and those family names are known for something that either they did in the community, whether they contributed large sums of money to a hospital or to another organization of some sort. So it's very important for that name. And even in this, maybe it's a deep South thing, I'm not sure, but in churches there are family names as well that are associated with the churches and what they did for that church. So it's to continue that history and that legacy of this is who these people were, and they were here, and this is their history and their story. So I'm just super connected to it.
Awesome. I love that. That's super powerful. Something else something else that you mentioned in your backstory that I thought was kind of interesting, is you took a real estate investment class on like flipping and wholesaling. Is that kind of what led you to that first deal, or were you already kind of on the real estate train?
That's what led me to my first deal. Out of that, I had the best mentor in the whole world, and I tell him all the time. We don't talk as often as we used to because he's not on payroll anymore. But we have still remained good friends. And I don't even think I would have made it this far had it not been for him, just because he believed in me and piqued my interest in so many ways. And you talk about creative financing, there's a million and one ways to get a deal done. And my first deal was a subject to property.
Wow.
So it was, and literally I was broke back then. And I think I put, I don't know, maybe $1,000 down to close that deal, which is, I mean, not a lot, but it probably was a lot for somebody, but not a whole lot of money. And I think I was paying the guy $100 a month on that deal. And then when we sold, it was a balloon payment. We set it up as a 10-year balloon payment, and we sold within that 10 years and got him paid off. And I didn't walk away with a large sum of money, but it definitely was like, wow, like, I can't believe I did it.
Yeah.
So, and he was very helpful because back then I was just learning negotiation. And I will tell you, as women, sorry to pull that card out there, but we tend to second guess ourselves, or when it comes to negotiation, sometimes we may talk too much. And he would always say to me, shut up and let them respond. And that was the biggest thing I got out of that, because I'm a talker. And he was just like, shut up and let them respond. He was like, throw your deal out there, explain. He was like, explain it, throw your number out there, shut up and let them respond. And that was for me the biggest takeaway, because it's hard for me to shut up. So it was like, wow. And he was like, and just watch their body language, watch their behavior, see, and that was so beneficial to me. Like, even now, when I'm putting together a deal, I'm just like, throw it out there, shut up and let them respond. This is what we can do. If we can't do anything else, this is my number. I'm not budging from this number. And the art of walking away, he showed me that as well, because I had to walk away from a deal, and it saddened me, but it's crazy because I'm emotionally invested into saving this man from pre-foreclosure. well, he was in pre-foreclosure, and I was trying to save him from the situation, and gave him my best offer, thought it was a great deal. And he didn't take it. It ended up going into foreclosure several months after. So it was a sad situation because I'm the person who will follow up and be like, let me see what happened. What did he get out? Because he said there was somebody else that was giving him a better deal. And even though I wanted that house, my mentor back then, he had said to me, he said, can you do anything? Can you compete with what he's saying in the offer? And I said, no, I can't, because I don't have the money. Like, this is all I can do. And he said, well, then that's what it is. Tell him this is your offer. And he either takes it or leave it. He has 24 hours. And when I tell you, it pained me to even say those words to that man when I had to call him up on that phone. And I'm over here holding my breath. And I'm like, so this is all I can do. Take it or leave it. Like, just saying take it or leave it, it was probably the weakest take it or leave it I've ever said in my life. But because it was like, gosh, I want you to take it. I want you to take it. But that just having those situations, it toughens you up a little bit too, though, because you really want to close these deals. And sometimes it's like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It only works if both parties want to make it work. So
Yeah, that can be sad. I used to be on a wholesale team, and we've saved many people from foreclosure, but there's many more that, stuff like that happens and it was not saved. So that stinks. But also I wanted to emphasize one of your other negotiation notes or two of them that I really like too there. One of them is the ability to walk away, right? Because people, a great line is 99% of the negotiation is done before you get to the table, right? So whoever needs the deal more, they're in a weaker position for sure. And then the second thing you mentioned was basically say your deal and then just let them respond, right? Because that's super powerful as well. We're always trained as closers to the number is basically the last thing you say, and then you shut up. And anything you say additional after that and try to explain yourself and be like, and this is why, it just weakens everything you said before. And, it's ineffective. So yeah, I really like those two tips. Those are good.
Yeah. Learned it from the best.
Yeah. Awesome. What else would you say, or if you had to summarize maybe the main things, what are the main benefits or advantages that you got from having a mentor?
I cannot express the importance of having a mentor, but I will also express caution. Don't overpay. I have also been, and I don't want to throw out the program or anything, but let's just say, learning after the fact, I could have found because I went through with the apartment syndication when learning how to acquire those larger deals. Looking back, I would say I could have found a mentor to work one-on-one with instead of going to this quote unquote mentorship program. If you are really serious about getting into this space, I would suggest finding a mentor that you could, because that was the difference for me. And not throwing shade at any big mentorship program out there. But I feel like I experienced faster success with a one-on-one mentor that called me, that I had their phone number and could access them 2 times a week, 3 times a week, more like 2 times a week. But they were holding me accountable instead of a big machine where it's like, oh, talk with this person and that person. We have these coaching days and this coaching days and da 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 da. For me, having that one-on-one mentorship was to me more beneficial than a large program that I've been through, just because when you're working with a mentor who has 30 plus years of experience, who has kind of seen the ups and downs, who has survived and also been burnt by 2008. So he had experienced, been sued, having all of that experience and still continuing to be successful in the space and offering his coaching services to me. And he was very upfront with the good, the bad, and the ugly. He had a shady business partner. He literally had went through it all. Had a shady business partner, had been sued by clients. 2008, lost a lot of money. he had experienced it all and was just very good at navigating and bouncing back, and even being honest about how long it took him to bounce back from those situations. So mentorship is so important and key to have when going through this, because and some people are self-learners where they go on YouTube and stuff like that, and then that's fine as well. But there's a lot that you don't know, and there's a lot, sometimes it's just having somebody I can call up and say, hey, this is the situation I'm running into, can you help me through this? Or can you give me some advice on how to navigate through this? I think it's so important. And I value mentorship just because I think of it as like a personal trainer, right? Everybody may be willing to go to the gym, or may even be disciplined enough to go to the gym, but there, at some point, it's hard to push yourself to that next level without that mentorship. Because even me, I fell off the gym, but even as I was going religiously to the gym, I was still struggling to make it to the next level of my weight goal, because it was like I realized I wasn't pushing myself. So I went and got a coach. And then that coach had me whipped in shape in a month. I done fell off. I need to go back. But, you know, um, coaching and mentorship is so important to get to that next level.
Yeah. That's huge. And in every area of my life, I've just like experienced nothing but positives from that. And vet your mentors too, because there are obviously bad ones out there, but it's like just a cheat code for growth and success. So I love that. In the backstory, in the journey to where you're at today, when you're kind of looking back on it, were there any major challenges or setbacks that you can recall?
Oh, can I be honest without so I'm trying to carefully say this, but I'm a mom. And as a mom, that sometimes feels like the biggest setback. And I'll tell you why, because I love my kids. It's not no shade to them, but sometimes it felt like life slowed down. Like I felt like for a whole year after having my really my first and second, for a whole year, I felt like I fell off the map, because I wasn't going to any networking events. It was just difficult to manage and to navigate. So for me, and looking back, I feel like it was a setback in the sense of I'm not at networking as much as I should be. I should be doing this, I should be doing that, but I can't make it to that because of this, da 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 da. So it's a lot of juggling, and it felt like a lot of pivoting. And even now, I still feel like I do a lot of pivoting and adjusting. It's just life. But I would say that okay, sorry, this dog is tearing up everything in this room right now. I would say that what felt like a setback was more of a reset. So it definitely, like, going through it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing anything. I'm not working. I'm not doing, like, it just, because that's a long period of time. So I didn't put either of my kids into daycare until they was at least 6 months. So it just felt like such a long time not being connected or going out and doing things. And I like to do a lot of networking. I told you I like to talk. So, so I like to do a lot of networking. And I felt like all of that shut down, but it was, and then also my son was born in 2019. So COVID immediately hit in February 2020, and everything was shut down. So felt like there was like just a disconnect from, being able to do some of the things that I would have normally been doing. But I feel like when I finally got back into it and started, and even now there's some networking groups I still can't make it to because they're after 5 o'clock, and that's just almost impossible for me. But now it's like I don't feel like I missed it. I'm still meeting all the people I would have met, I feel like 2 years ago. So I think it for me was just like a reset period where I had to just figure out how to navigate differently. So maybe not a setback, but more of a reset. Um, I don't know if I've experienced any, like, I would say the biggest setback has really been me. Um, I wouldn't say it has been blamed on any singular event or anything else. It's just when you deal with a lot mentally, like I said, my grandfather passed away following month. It was my mom being diagnosed with cancer. She passed August 2019. My son was born November 2019. So it was a lot of stuff kind of happening around the same time. And so I think for me, it was just not being a good mental space to even really be able to expand any. I mean, I grew a business and that was the nonprofit. Our nonprofit grew, but somehow I just felt like it was autopilot. It was just like I couldn't tell you what the heck I did during that period of time. Right. I couldn't tell you how we grew so fast, but we grew really fast, really quickly. But it was like, I don't even know. It's like a blur. I can't even explain those years. But
Can I make a note about what you just said about being a mom too there?
Yeah.
I just want to say, I think I'm glad you said that because I think there's a large number of people who are experiencing the same thing, or maybe they're concerned about the same thing. Because actually, I have first child on the way, so but that's a legitimate like thing in my head right now, and I'm not sure how to deal with it. Is like, how is this gonna affect my? It sounds crazy when I say this out loud. How is this gonna affect my other goals? Like, how is this going to derail other things in my life? Maybe. Is that okay? Is that a good thing when my goals shift? Probably. But like that's it's good to hear you say that because other people are for certain dealing with that same challenge, and to hear that you know overcame it or got through it, or however you say it was a good reset for you. You figured it out. That's good to hear.
And it may take a while. It literally, it felt like forever. I really feel like, and honestly, I will tell you, it wasn't up until early this year. So my daughter, she's 2 now, and I breastfed both my kids, and so they're very much attached to me. I don't feel like I got free, what I would deem as free, until she finally stopped breastfeeding, which was literally 5-6 months ago, like where it was like, oh my goodness, I can work after 5 o'clock because she's not on me, and I can be at my computer a little bit more. But even now it's still challenging. I hate 5 o'clock meetings, and it's terrible because apparently everybody in the multifamily space wants to talk after 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why do y'all do this to me? So it's still a challenge. It's still having to navigate. Thank goodness for AI, so people send their AI notes to the meeting or whatever. And I think that was developed for working moms because it is very challenging. But it's always navigating. And I wish I had better advice, but it is literally like you just gotta I go with the river and adjust as it adjusts. Because it's still challenging. I don't think I mastered it in any sort of way.
Yeah. Do you ever master it, or is it more like just get better, right? So
yeah, I think you get better. There are some things, my kid is 4 now, so he just turned 5 a week ago. And so I think we are navigating some things better, like as far as scheduling. I know moms who I feel like they are killing it as moms. Like they are like, I mean, I wish I could do what they do, which is be super organized and like at this time we're doing this, at this time we're doing that, and at this time, I think if you could manage your schedule to do that, you are way better than me and above probably most. But I think having that schedule and that time so you know when your windows are to be able to do work. Now, initially, since you're about to be a new dad, there's going to be no such thing as like like the babies have no sense of time or whatever. Right. Like they eat when they want to eat, they poop when they want to poop. Like it's like there's no real way to handle it. But I do think as time goes on, as they get older, like my kid being 5 and my youngest being 2, it is it's easier to get them on a schedule of this at this time. Like when he comes home, it's homework. He does homework now. So it's homework first, and then we get to play games, then eat dinner, and then we read books before bed. So we are now on a more scheduled time than we have ever been before.
Well, good, good. I know we're kind of running up on time here as well, but was there anything else that you wanted to touch on before we did sign off? Or did we hit it all?
The one thing I want to touch on is a lesson I'm still learning, and hopefully it will help someone else. But I would say your journey is your journey, and try your best. I'm still working on it, not to compare yourselves to others. I do it a lot, especially in this era of social media. You scroll down and somebody has a deal that you wish you got, and you're just like, man, I wish I would have, like, ah, man, like I do it all the time, and I try not to get on social media in the mornings. But just realizing your journey is your journey, and if you know what your end goal is, just keep working towards it. You're gonna have ups and downs. I've had several days where I say this to everybody, at least once a month, I am on Indeed looking for a job because I've been working for myself for a long time, and there's sometimes inconsistency with paychecks because if you don't do what you need to do this month, next month won't be as profitable, things of that nature. So it becomes challenging and stressful, but the good news is I'm able to navigate, and on my own schedule. I don't have to report to anyone or anything like that. So that's been nice, but realizing that my journey is my journey. I may not be where I want to just yet, but I can promise you I'm going to get there.
There you go. I like that. Well, it was really awesome having you on today, and I'll have the your LinkedIn profile in the description and any other links that you send me to have people reach out to you. But yeah, it was really awesome having you on here, and I'm really glad we got to have this conversation.
Yes, and thank you again for having me. I appreciate you even considering me for the podcast. So I'm excited to see it. I did subscribe to your channel, so I'll be watching.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, signing off, you guys.